down.
لفضيلة مفتي جمهورية مصر العربية.
In this courtroom, at least, the death sentences were greeted with elation. It's what many of the relatives and friends of the 73 people killed had demanded, and it's what they got. The opposite reaction in Port Said, where many of the defendants are being held in prison. Those sentenced to death are all described as followers of the local El Masri club, and their fellow supporters took to the streets in anger. Attempts to storm the prison were repulsed in clouds of tear gas and rounds of gunfire. Protesters and police were killed and dozens of others wounded. Back in Cairo, though, the fans of El Ahly, known as the Ultras Alawi, gathered jubilantly in the club stadium, and some continued to insist that the killings in Port Said had a political dimension.
Ultras Ahlawi were among the first to support the revolution alongside the rest of the youth. We fought against Mubarak and then against the military. The Port Said massacre was an act of retaliation by Interior Ministry forces because of this.
Amid the celebration here, one fundamental question remains as yet unanswered. Was there a conspiracy? And to what degree can accountability be attached to the body that was in power at the time of the killings, the Supreme Council of Armed Forces, SCAF? The reasons for the judgment are still to be given. The remaining 52 defendants are still to be sentenced. The judge's work is far from over. Mike Hanna, Al Jazeera, Cairo.
Well, let's get the very latest now from Raya Raghi, who's on the line from Port Said. And Raya, what is the latest?
In the past hour, Nick, we've seen military helicopters hover above Port Said city. Military is still trying to bring the situation under control outside the main prison here. They've managed to barricade the area, but there are still pops of gunfire heard around the prison. Also, the Health Ministry is coordinating with the Air Force now, we're told, to send aerial medical evacuation teams to the city.
So, Raya, what's the situation as far as the government are concerned? What's their reaction been?
I'm not sure I heard your question right, Nick, but what I can tell you in terms of reaction here in Port Said is that there's a lot of anger among the people. They're genuinely surprised, really, at how harsh the verdicts were. They weren't expecting these verdicts. The lawyers were telling them that there was simply not any sufficient evidence to incriminate the defendants, certainly nothing that would merit death sentences according to the lawyers of the defendants. So a lot of shock, but also a lot of anger at the late arrival of the military, and more importantly, at the sheer level of lawlessness in the city. Port Said used to be a very tightly secured city under Mubarak. It's a key industrial zone. It straddles the Suez Canal, and therefore it used to be a very important security area. Now is a city awash with weapons, which would explain why we've seen all of these armed gunmen, masked gunmen, using automatic rifles, light ammunition, shooting at protesters to release the defendants from the prison.
Raya, thanks very much indeed. Raya Raghi reporting there. Well, there have also been riots in Suez a day after